Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate that. And in today's video, I want to talk about why Bitcoin is so much more than just an investment. Bitcoin is a revolution. And I want to share a few key points with you here today. And I believe that this is really important because it's a part of Bitcoin that isn't spoken about enough. And they've just had the big global conference in Prague just this last week. And there's so much macro information there in terms of the big picture for Bitcoin, where it's all headed, the fact that it's been the best performing asset on Earth for the past decade, how it's outpacing every other asset on Earth, why that is, why we have inflation that is out of control, that is not going to stop, the fact that they need to keep printing money and creating more debt in order to essentially keep asset prices up so that the whole system doesn't implode on itself. And so all of this information is really accessible now. And I'd encourage you, if you haven't watched any of the clips from Bitcoin Prague, to jump onto YouTube and just look up the Bitcoin Prague channel. You can tune into Michael Saylor's keynote speech or Adam Back, B-A-C-K. I would highly encourage you to watch those two. I think they're both about 45 minutes each. And that'll give you a really good sense of where Bitcoin is going and why you should be here in terms of wealth acceleration. But just as importantly, and this is the part that's not spoken about enough, and when I do my one-on-one Zoom calls with people every single week, I did a stack of these last week, people who come to me and they know that Bitcoin is the place to be, they want to learn more about the other side to Bitcoin, which is the self-sovereignty, the autonomy, the freedom technology that is Bitcoin. And so this is an area I'm really passionate about, and I really spend a lot of time helping people along and guiding them in this area. And there's one thing I'll say right up front that, again, I don't think is spoken about enough in Bitcoin, and that is, you have to understand, when you own Bitcoin, it's kind of like owning the best, most pristine form of beachfront or harbourfront property or real estate that you could ever own. Not just now, but that's what it's going to be in the future. And it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you own. You might own a fraction of a Bitcoin. But you need to think of it in terms of being the absolute most scarce, most desirable, pristine form of property or real estate that you can own. It's just that it's not on the beach or it's not on the harbour. It's actually sitting in cyberspace. And the thing to understand is that if it was real estate, what would you have attached to that? You would have stamp duty, you'd have rates, you'd have land taxes, you'd have maintenance, you'd have management fees, you'd have insurance, you'd have all of these costs associated with the upkeep and the maintenance of that property. Now, Bitcoin is an even better form of property because it's more scarce. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that there will ever be. Nobody can make any more of it. Not only that, it is a truly global asset. So unlike a piece of real estate, which is really relevant to the marketplace in which it's in, Bitcoin is a truly global asset. So the demand for that piece of digital real estate is essentially unlimited. And this is what we're seeing now, and this is why the price trajectory of Bitcoin into the future is going to continue to grow exponentially due to its finite supply and the fact that there is essentially unlimited global demand for it. But the point I want to make to you is, you would never own that piece of beachfront real estate and choose not to insure it. Now, not only do you have to pay insurance, but you have all of these other costs that are totally outside of your control. And this is part of the central control system, and this is why assets that are in the control system, in the central banking and the jurisdiction that you're in, they're exposed to all of the rules of the day of that system. Bitcoin, there are no rules other than the protocol itself. So there are rules, but there are no rulers who can change the rules. And there's no maintenance fees. But people who are looking to move forward on their Bitcoin journey and to continue to stack, who already own some Bitcoin or even fractions of Bitcoin, my advice is to think of it in terms of allocating, I would say, somewhere between 3 to 5% of your stack or your target stack that you intend to get to over the next year or two. You need to be dedicating a portion of that stack to education and security. Education and security. Remember, there are no other maintenance costs associated with Bitcoin. But you wouldn't believe the number of people who think they can just own Bitcoin and, who are doing it completely wrong, leaving their Bitcoin on an exchange, completely exposed, and they're not investing any time in education and security. And so, just keep that in mind that, if you had a pristine form of beachfront real estate, you'd have all of these costs associated with it plus insurance to maintain it. With Bitcoin, you've got none of those costs, but just think seriously about allocating somewhere between 3 and 5% of your stack to your education and security. So I hope that makes sense. So what makes Bitcoin a revolution? Number one, it is the separation of money from state. For the first time in history, we have a money for the people that is not part of the central bank control system. And we have to remember that central banking is not a forever phenomenon. It is a phenomenon that came in with the advent of the Federal Reserve in 1913. It was the third iteration of the central banking system in America. The first two actually failed. And then in 1913, the Federal Reserve was formed. But what's really interesting about that is that at the exact same year, the US Tax Department was formed, known as the IRS, the Inland Revenue Service, which is the same essentially as the ATO in Australia. And so central banking is a phenomenon essentially of the last 100 years as we know it, 120 odd years, let's say. But it wasn't always that way. And so there has been times in history where money has been separated from state. People used to trade, in terms of shells and fur and gold and silver before it became part of the control system. All of that we used to do as people. And so today we have an opportunity to move back to that, where there is nobody who can corrupt, change, mess with the rules of Bitcoin. And that's what makes it so powerful as a revolution, because it's a monetary protocol that cannot be corrupted. And like I said in yesterday's video, if you're saving in dollars, you really have no idea how much currency at any one time is in circulation today, tomorrow, next year, the year after that. And this is why people are trying to work out why it is that the cost of everything around them is going up. They can't quite keep up. They don't quite understand why, but they don't realize that it's due to inflation caused by currency debasement, money printing, which is essentially stealing their purchasing power, their savings. And so what's fascinating, and Adam Back spoke about this at Bitcoin Prague, the central control system is a really sinister system because it taxes you in two ways. It taxes you in terms of your income. So essentially you're giving away half your income on the front end just to function. So in terms of what you're earning. And then on the back end, if you're storing that income in dollars, you're getting stolen from through inflation, through money printing. And so it's a double whammy. And so the only way to protect yourself from that is to store your savings in something that cannot be debased. And this is why wealthy people choose to store their savings in real estate or in the stock market, or in some cases even in gold and silver, because they know that saving in cash, in dollars, is essentially like committing financial suicide. And so wealthy people have known this for the longest time, that they can't save any meaningful amount of dollars in cash, because the purchasing power is just getting diluted month after month, year after year. And so essentially their savings are going south, the value of them. And so they always look to park their money in scarce desirable assets. The problem is that those scarce desirable assets in the centralized system are fully exposed now. to central bank digital currencies, to capital controls, to unlimited taxation, to land tax, to stamp duties. All of these things, and I speak to people every single week who are in this real life situation where they're starting to, as an example, divest their rental property portfolios, their real estate portfolios, because they're being taxed into oblivion. They have no say over the system. The system is constraining them and forcing them basically out of holding these assets because it's becoming untenable for them to continue to hold them and maintain them. And so they're starting to question, what they can do, and people are waking up and realizing that Bitcoin is the answer because it's a system that cannot be corrupted in that way. And so this is why Bitcoin is a revolution, because when you separate money from state, you move away from the corruption. You are able to protect your savings, your capital, your purchasing power in a system that cannot be changed, that cannot be corrupted, a system based on integrity and rules. So that's a really important distinction, and this is why Bitcoin is revolutionary for the very fact that nobody can mess with it. The second reason is that it is a safe haven, not just for protecting you from inflation, but also its decentralized nature means that it's an avenue for you to actually protect your wealth from counterparty risk, from seizure, from any kind of threats that exist. And I won't get into exactly what those threats are, but we all know that when our assets are exposed in the control system, there's many attack vectors that essentially are there that we are at risk of being exposed to. And with Bitcoin, that doesn't exist, particularly if you take Bitcoin into self-custody and you do it right. And so again, it's important to understand that this in itself is a revolution, because for the first time in history, we have a monetary protocol where you can essentially secure your wealth in a way where there's no permission required, there's no middlemen, there's no brokers, there's no financial planners, there's no accountants, and you can basically eliminate any attack vectors because you're taking it in a sovereign way into self-custody so that you are the head of security of your own financial life. And so this is really, really powerful stuff. And as we move into this increasingly uncertain and unstable geopolitical and economic landscape, it's not going to change, it's just going to get worse. They're talking about bringing in central bank digital currencies in October in Europe. Not talking about it, they're actually, it's on the agenda, it's happening. And people don't realize this is the start of surveillance money. The minute you have to download an app that's plugged into the central bank of your jurisdiction and it surveils all of your spending habits, your digital ID, your carbon credits, your social credit score, all of those things are tied into your spending habits, your financial life. And ATMs start to dry up. I mean, I'm noticing just where I live, there's less and less ATMs or more ATMs starting to shut down. There was an ATM I went to the other day that had been there for the longest time. All of a sudden it's shut. I'm noticing banks, all of a sudden, they're starting to empty bank branches out in certain shopping centres. And I would venture to say within 5 years, we're not going to see big banks with big leases in shopping centres. This whole thing is changing so fast. And I want you to understand that if you hold Bitcoin, you are part of the revolution. You are part of the new value system, the new decentralized system of value, a monetary protocol that is going to completely transform how we transact peer-to-peer, how we transfer value, how we value our time and energy. There's going to be many people, I believe, in the next 5 to 10 years, if not sooner, who refuse to work for dollars anymore due to inflation and due to all of the exposure risks of being in that system. And they're going to demand being paid in Bitcoin. being paid in Satoshis. And I know many businesses now that they will not deal with you unless you pay them in Bitcoin, because they already get this. And so when I say 5 to 10 years, I would say that that is a gross overestimation. I would say we're going to be there in more like 3 to 5 years. And it's happening so fast. This circular economy that is now evolving, where people are getting fed up, they've had enough, they can see the walls closing in, and they know that Bitcoin is a life raft escape from that. It is a revolution, and is an opportunity that is probably here for maybe another year or two, and then it's going to get really, really harder to onboard into Bitcoin in any meaningful way, because there's just not going to be any Bitcoin left for sale because of where we are on the on the supply line of Bitcoin. Some 98% already mined out of the 21 million. So if you want to extract Bitcoin, put it into your own savings, you're going to have to buy it off the likes of the US government, BlackRock, some of the deepest pockets on earth. And so you won't be buying Bitcoin, you'll be buying Satoshis, which is just fractions of a Bitcoin. So you need to move fast. I'm going to leave it there today. Bitcoin is a revolution. It's not going away. It is the separation of money from state. It is the first time in history that we have an opportunity to be autonomous, no counterparty risk, but you've got to do it right. You've got to understand what this is. You've got to develop your own education, your own conviction, and you've got to start taking the right steps before it's too late. And I said the other day, I'm reading a book right now by a gentleman by the name of Adam Livingston. It's called The Great Harvest, and it's all about how AI is going to displace and disrupt so many professions, the labour market, in ways that we can't even imagine over the next little while, 3 to 5 years. And Bitcoin is going to be the value system that people are going to want to run to in this environment. And it's going to be chaotic. It's not going to be smooth sailing. So yeah, you're in the right place. You just got to double down on whatever it is you're doing. If I can help in any way, book a call with me. I offer one-on-one calls every single week. My calendar books up quite fast. So feel free to jump in, book a call with me. I know you'll get great value from a session with me. I can answer all your questions, point you in the right direction, give you the confidence to take the next steps, whatever they may be, help you or guide you in the right direction to set up a self-managed super fund, professional who can do that for you fully compliantly, so that you can onboard into Bitcoin through there, if that's what you want to do. But other than that, I want to leave it there today. Thanks for tuning in. Please leave your comments. And other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Zane signing out. Have a great day. Bye for now.